Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by CJ Vogel. Going to take a big picture look at the Texas defense, where things stand and where things could go from here as the Longhorns prepare to enter SEC play. This edition of On Texas Football is brought to you by Advanced Pain Care. I'll tell you more about Advanced Pain Care here later in the show. CJ, let's look at the Texas defense. Whether you want to look at the analytics, the advanced statistics, the raw statistics, wise, Texas in the top 20 in the country right now in total defense and scoring defense. Also, if you look at Pro Football Focus, in terms of the overall defensive grades, they only have 3 defenses graded out higher than the Texas defense right now. That's Texas Tech, believe it or not, Maryland, and Penn State. So, CJ, whatever numbers you want to look at, what's your take on just where the Texas defense stands right now? And I'll ask you this. Has that group lived up to your expectations going into the year?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, looking at the points per game allowed so far, you've got to be pleased, right? 14 points on the road against Ohio State, 7 against San Jose State, and 10 against UTEP. I think Sark even mentioned on Monday, Jeff, after that UTEP game, 140 yards or so came in the final fourth quarter, in which Texas was really starting to file in a lot of these new faces. I think we're all kind of anticipating seeing more of these new faces as the season progresses. And look, it's up to the offense to put points on the board for that to be the case. But right now, I think that we're seeing Texas live up to the expectations while leaving a lot of food on its plate. And what I mean by that is I still think there's room for an Anthony Hill to improve, room for a Jalen Gilbo out wide to improve. We're still waiting to see Colin Simmons put his hand on the scale and tilt it towards his direction as well. So it's playing well. I think it's in a good place. It's going to need to improve, and I think it will ahead of SEC play.
CJ, going back to Pro Football Focus, Texas right now the 9th best rush defense in the country. And I think what really jumped out to me looking at the Pro Football Focus numbers, Texas is the 6th highest graded pass rush in the country. We talked about Colin Simmons' slow start. We talked about the sack numbers not being where even Sark wants them, I think where anybody wants them. But again, you look at the snap-to-snap presence Texas has getting the quarterback, CJ. You've got every reason to believe that this group is really, really close to getting home, getting the quarterback on the ground, and those sack numbers going up.
Yeah, I think so. And, it's interesting looking back. And, I mentioned Colin Simmons not necessarily having lived up to the expectations coming into this year. But let's not forget, he is getting double-teamed. He is getting chipped pretty often. On top of that, look, he's getting pressured, Jeff, and I think that's something that might get lost in all of this. Is he's not a complete no-show. He is still affecting the quarterback in his dropbacks, just not getting the quarterback to the ground. And again, when some of the talk in the offseason is, can this guy break the sack record for an individual season? Well, you're expecting to see the guy on the ground, right? But he is getting pressure, and that's one thing that I obviously would like to see the continuation of. I would also like to point out Brad Spence. I think this is a guy who right now, with the way that he had rushed the passer and his, kind of sparing snaps earlier this year, Jeff, 31.6% win rate. That's the highest on the team. 4 pressures on 19 pass rush snaps. That's the highest rate on the entire team as well. I'd like to see him on this NASCAR unit a little bit more. I'd like to see him implemented just a little bit more in this Texas pass rush. I think he can be a guy in the long run that really helps this pass rushing unit.
If you look at the win rate, Trey Moore at 28.6%, Colin Simmons at 26.7%, Alex January 22.2%. That's all in the Ohio State game. Even Anthony Hill, CJ, 22.2%. His pass rush productivity rating right now, 13.9. That's the highest on the team. So, Ty Anthony Smith right behind him at 13.6. Brad Spence, like you said, 10.5 leads the edge room. So you're seeing the impact, guys, the guys that we expected to make an impact. We're seeing them have that impact. And right now, CJ, Texas only won at 18 FBS defenses, allowing fewer than 4 yards per play. And while the sack numbers might not be there, we talk about, hey, where is this defense elite right now? You're in the top quarter in the SEC and in the top 25 nationally in third down defense, 26.8% opponent conversion rate. If you're allowing, CJ, under 30% conversion rate on defense, you're doing pretty good. When you start creeping into 25% allowed, you're getting into elite territory. That's the stuff championship defenses are made of. You may not be getting the sacks, but you're at the very least, you're getting off the field when you're supposed to.
Yeah, a year ago, Texas was absolutely tremendous on third down defense, right? And it would extend that to fourth down defense, Jeff. Texas has allowed just 1 of 7 fourth down attempts as well. So they're creating, that's an additional 6 takeaways. If you're into those fumbles, turnovers, whatever, fourth down stops in my book go as a takeaway as well. So that's certainly encouraging. And what's most encouraging for me is I mentioned there's a lot of new faces, some guys that are new to the system or getting their first play time, Grayson Littleton being one of them. Texas is not getting beat in busted coverages, right? Or they're not getting, gaping holes in the run game, right? Only 3 rush attempts this season have gone for 10+ yards. That's a tremendous statistic through 3 games. So that's encouraging again, and it's only going to tighten up as the season continues and these guys get more familiar with being on the field with one another.
Sark has talked about red zone defense needs to get back to where it has been in previous years. Whereas Texas, they're not terrible right now when you look at the national rankings. And again, it's a 3-game sample for everybody at this point. But Texas right now, 37th nationally in red zone defense. But CJ, they've only had 4 red zone possessions against them this year. So I mean, teams just are struggling to get down there. They do have 3 touchdowns. So again, that 75% scoring rate Texas is allowing, it's all touchdowns. But again, to face as many possessions as this defense has faced, including some unfavorable field position with either special teams penalties or the offense turning the ball over or failing on fourth down, I tie red zone CJ into sudden change because it's one area where you really don't want to get a gauge of how good your defense is. Facing that many possessions, being a good sudden change defense and a good red zone defense. CJ, are you concerned at all with the red zone defense, or you think, hey, they're not letting anybody there, so as long as that holds form, then they're good?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly part of it, but I look back at how those 3 touchdowns were scored. One was on a fourth down attempt from the 1-yard line against Ohio State. It felt like for 3 of those previous downs, the Texas defense certainly held its own. You take that. If you're risking a fourth down stop on the goal line against this Texas defense, what we've seen over the last couple of years, Jeff, I'm taking the Texas defense's odds in that situation. On top of that, look, a late touchdown from UTEP, a late touchdown from San Jose State. It wasn't really against these top Colin Simmons's, the Anthony Hills, Leon Lafau's on the field for the Longhorns. I've taken the situations in which these are scored. Again, teams aren't going to score very often against this Texas defense. And, if you're going to get in the red zone, you're going to have to try all 4 downs to put that ball in the end zone, because very rarely will you see teams score on 1, 2, or 3 early on against the starters.
Yeah, I get what Sark was talking about when he talked about, hey, mental intensity needs to be there, focus needs to be there. But to your point about the San Jose State touchdown, Texas was up 28-0 before they scored that red zone touchdown. The game was pretty much over at that point. I think everybody knew it was over. So again, I'm kind of with you on where Texas is right now in terms of the red zone defense. We'll continue talking about the Texas defense, but right now, with the help of a couple of lifetime Longhorns, let's tell you about our good friends over at Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
CJ, here's one area with this Texas defense where we really haven't seen them be tested, I think, like they will be. It's probably especially against Florida in that SEC opener. That's the run defense. Texas right now, 12th in the country against the run, average, giving up a little over 70 yards per game at 70.7, 2.47 yards per rush attempt. That's 3rd best in the SEC. CJ, are you wait and see on the run defense, or have you seen enough good things to feel like Texas will be able to stop the run even when the competition kicks up?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, competition the last 2 weeks hasn't been great, but going on the road to play Ohio State, a team whose offensive line has turned into a strength. We've seen that run game get really loose in the back end as well. Since that Texas game, I believe the longest rush was 8 yards that was allowed in that game. I feel pretty good. And again, on top of that, you go back to those 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 situations when the run game really has to stand up and play well. It has. And I do think it's going to carry over. You don't have a Tavondre Sweat level guy in that middle. You know, I think Cole Brevard's done well. Alex January is certainly going to be a boost back to this offensive or defensive line when he returns. But that guy in the middle that has really surprised me so far, Jeff, has been Hero Kanu. And I don't know how anyone can look at this defense right now and say he has not been one of the more pleasant surprises through 3 weeks. So right now, a hat tip to him, because he's been one of the most encouraging pieces of this Texas defense through the first quarter of the season.
CJ, I apologize if you didn't mention this, but I could have sworn you mentioned this earlier this week on a live stream. But you start looking at SEC run games, and I was thinking, man, okay, going into the year, I felt like Florida and Texas A&M had the potential to have the two best run games in the SEC when you look at the combination of running backs returning and what they brought back on the offensive line. And you look at the way they both run the ball, CJ. Like we talk about the Texas run game. Texas is actually kind of middle of the road in the SEC, running the ball 51st nationally, averaging a little over 182 yards per game, almost 4.4 per attempt. Texas A&M right now, 78th nationally, running the football. The Aggies only 157 yards on the ground, are 4.71 yards per attempt. But Florida, CJ, 137.3 yards per game on the ground, 4.29 yards per attempt. That's 89th in the country. Yeah. I know DJ Lagway has struggled, but maybe I know it's early, but maybe some of these SEC run games that we thought were going to be elite, maybe the Texas defense has a better chance to stop some of these run games than maybe we thought going into the year.
Yeah, those are two that I'm really surprised by. Obviously, Jaden Baugh, I think, is a terrific talent, and I think he's going to continue to be a really good player this season. But look, you know, they rank 11 and 12th, Florida and Texas A&M respectively in the SEC in running back rushing yards. Now that's, again, not very encouraging, but what's most, you know, I guess varying from the two teams is missed tackles forced by both teams' running backs. Florida sits at 28, which is tied for second in the SEC. You see that they cannot create run lanes for their running backs. Their running backs basically have to do it all. It's shades of 2022 Texas with Bijan and Roschon, right? Yeah. On the flip side, you came into the season expecting Texas A&M to have a great offensive line, plus the return of Le'Veon Moss, the return of Reuben Owens, the emergence of an E.J. Smith. And, well, Jeff, they sent 15th out of 16th. And missed tackles forced from the running back specifically. That is not where I anticipated hearing the strength of that Texas A&M offense right now. But it's a great sign for the Texas Longhorns, who swarm to the football and can gang tackle very well. That bodes well for their meeting in late November.
CJ, the last area I want to look at are turnovers for us now. Coach Brian Irwin made, I thought, a great point on Coffee and Football Friday morning that, hey, the turnovers should be there just because as fast and as physical as this Texas defense is against overmatched opponents, you're going to probably knock a few more balls loose than you otherwise would. You're probably going to put yourself in a position to make more plays on the ball than you will when the competition kicks up. But, CJ, right now, the only defense in the SEC that's forced more turnovers in Texas is Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt with 7 forced turnovers. Alabama, LSU, Mississippi State, and Texas all with 6. But what I like about what Texas is doing right now, CJ, last year we knew the interceptions came in bunches. But this year, that's through 3 games, the 6 forced turnovers, it's evenly split. 3 interceptions, 3 fumble recoveries. I love the fact, CJ, that after the Ohio State game where Sark said, hey, there weren't enough guys going for the ball. The first guy gets there. The second guy's not going for the strip. I've seen Anthony Hill do it. I've seen Jelani McDonald do it. Ty Anthony Smith. There's a number of defenders you see now, even when they're the first guy there, they're cognizant enough to go for the strip. I got a feeling the forced fumble numbers and the fumble recovery numbers, they're trending in the right direction based on what we've seen the last 2 games.
Yeah, I think so. And that, look, Anthony Hill forcing a fumble by just basically knocking out his opponent was pretty impressive there. I'm not sure if that's replicable, but, you know, that even split, that 3 forced fumbles sits you in the top 10 nationally for forced fumbles in 2024. That's great. And that's going to continue on. You know, you get that confidence from seeing one ball get loose, thinking you can do it again. For Anthony Hill, Leon Glafau, Anthony Smith, all of these guys have proven that they are ball hawks in the sense of strips and forced fumbles. That's great. Now it's about continuing to build. And look, Jalen Gilbo probably should have had a second interception to his tally. So they're in positions, and that's most encouraging right now. Now it's about executing and really taking that ball away and getting Texcalibur up and running on the sideline once again.
You know, Sark talked about it in his pregame Zoom call on Thursday when he's talking about the offense. A lot of questions about the offense, CJ, but he said, hey, they can take cues from the defense. Don't think, react, be confident, play fast, play physical, and go out there and dominate like you know you can, CJ. I think that's what we can say for sure about the Texas defense as we close out non-conference play. That unit has been dominant, and it looks like they've got a chance. Pete Kwiatkowski, it's amazing. Go back to his first year. Everybody was ready to run Pete Kwiatkowski out of town. Now, I can't think of a better defensive coordinator in the country over the last couple of years because it looks like he's about to put another elite unit on the field.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, CJ, thank you for the knowledge and expertise as always. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. Thank you to our friends over at Advanced Pain Care for sponsoring it. And thank you to the entire On Texas Football staff. If you're not a member, over at ontexasfootball.com, get over to the site right now. Sign up using the promo code OTFOG, and that'll get you 1 year of access for $39.95. Make sure you like this video and that you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way, whether it's here on the channel or on the site, you're not missing anything before, during, and after every Texas football game this season. For CJ, for Matthew, for the On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time, welcome.